Let's get in possibly a critical view. Swaminathan Iyer, coming on that, Swami, do you think that some of these portfolios have been given purely because of political compulsions? That they had to be people like Godrej Mishra who had to be accommodated in the cabinet, and in a sense, loyalists have been rewarded.
It's one thing to run a state government, which is a relatively small, compact area, and it's an area where the Chief Minister has the ability to appoint, discipline and transfer every official. He's a hands-on. But if you're a Prime Minister here, you can't transfer a single official in any state government. You can't do anything about the police. Your powers are frankly quite limited. Now you do of course have powers over defense or foreign affairs or international trade, but that is a very small part of the totality of the reality the Aam Aadmi is facing. The Aam Aadmi actually is in directly contact only or 90% only with the state government, not the central government. So for him to say, let me once again say, I have a highly centralized thing and I have guys around me who will then give orders and we will be able to run the country, I think that would fail. I hope he does not try to do that. I hope on the other hand, he says that these new fellows who have come, let us give them a chance to grow in their own job. He would have his own ideas. And God knows how many PowerPoint presentations he must have already seen. And he may probably say, this is now through, now go and run with it. Finally, I think you need to get away from the idea that ministers have to take all the decisions. There's a classic Western idiom in which you say the minister decides the policy and all the approvals are then done by the civil servants. That is the original thing. Now suddenly we want all the approvals to be done by ministers or by cabinet committees. That is not the way a smooth democracy functions. I mean, there will be exceptional cases which would go up to the minister or to the cabinet, but the norm should be that you set the policy and the bureaucrats go ahead and do it. So if you're trying to run India, I think you need to do it that old conventional way, individual ministerial discretion or Prime Minister running everything. I do not think are models that will work.
Since we are talking about conventional ways, Punita, how do you think the market would read some of these crucial economic portfolios and the way they've been aligned? The oil ministry has to take a call on the contentious gas price, but you've given it to a relatively unknown person in Dharmendra Pradhan. Punita, we will just come to you in just a bit, but Mr. Singh, I want to ask you the same question. Many were expecting an integrated energy portfolio. Instead, we've got 4 independent ministries, ministers rather. Would you say somewhere that this is perhaps a sign of the fact that the last call on, say, something as contentious as the gas price hike lies with Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister?
You have, after a very long time, brought coal and power under the same Minister of State. This is not an insignificant step, because I think that the modernization of India's coal sector and the modernization and improvement of productivity in India's coal economy has a significant bearing on the way in which the balance of payments is going to be reflected. We are large importers of coal, and if there is huge domestic availability and reserves of coal, which on account of very flawed policies we have not been able to optimize on. There is shortage of coal, which does not enable power stations to run at optimum capacity, and I think that bringing them together in many ways is a step which is trying to seek the virtuous circles between coal and power production. Now, combining that, if you are suggesting, with petroleum ministry, would have become an increasingly unmanageable charge, because looking at the way in which the challenges of petroleum have to deal not only with seeking increased availability of crude for meeting our needs, it has a lot to do also with how to improve the exploration, the acreage, how to enter into the most optimum international agreements, and how to really optimize public-private partnership. I think there is a huge learning curve in how to manage public-private partnership. One of the manifestation of that is the manner in which we have gone about fixing the price of gas, domestic gas, misaligned with the markets, misaligned with the price at which imported gas is available. So I think that there are enough challenges which are inherent in the management of the oil economy which have both national and international ramifications, and it would have become too much to perhaps combine it with coal and power.
Mr. Mistry, my question is now for you. What do you suppose will be, on top of the agenda for the finance minister? To your mind, which areas should he be concentrating on the most?
I would say there are several issues. There are probably 10 to 12 issues, but if I was to name just 5 of those 10, and I can name more if you want, I would say the first and foremost is we have to resolve this whole issue around taxation. Now, there is so much of concern, particularly amongst foreign investors, on high-pitched assessments, retrospective amendments to tax laws, GHAR, and so on and so forth. Vodafone is a stickler unnecessarily. It's there in people's mind when they come to look at investing in India. So I think on the taxation side, I would say two things to look at. One is simplify tax laws, resolve all the old disputes, particularly the ones which relate to foreign companies. So give the confidence back to the system to start looking at investing. And two, as far as domestic taxpayers are concerned, reduce the tax rate but improve the compliance. There are, I'm told, only 43,000 individuals who report a taxable income in excess of ₹1 crore. Now that, to my mind, is totally unacceptable, and we have to increase the compliance levels, lower the tax rates, which will encourage more people to come to the tax net and pay taxes. So these are the two issues around taxation. The second issue revolves around I would say creation of infrastructure. So if you look at India in the last several years, inflation in India is persistent. Inflation comes, inflation goes, but inflation keeps coming back. And the reason it keeps coming back is because there are certain structural supply side issues which need to be addressed. Now these supply side issues, if we were to address these supply side issues, we need to make some real serious investment in infrastructure.
Right, let's get a word from Mr. Godrej as well. Mr. Godrej, what do you think are the key challenges for the finance minister? What do you think he needs to focus on first up?
Well, I think first he has to revive the economy. The finance ministry will have to ensure that GDP growth gets to at least 8% for the next financial year. A lot of action needs to be taken. The good thing is there are lots of possibilities. There must be a stimulus provided to industry. Industrial growth is extremely poor. Ease of doing business must be improved, and the terrible perception we have created among foreign investors with retrospective tax amendments and the various action taken on transfer pricing needs to be quickly reversed. I think if all these things are attended to at an early date, I think the Indian GDP growth can be accelerated very early.
Mr. Mistry, let you have the last word there. Let's talk about markets. A lot of money has already started flowing in from foreign institutional investors. But what does the government really need to do to ensure that the party doesn't get spoiled and this momentum, so to say, continues from here on?
I think the issues that I talked about, if some of these issues are addressed, I think that will create so much of confidence amongst overseas institutional investors that we will continue to see more money coming into India. I keep talking to investors all the time, and I know that most investors are extremely fascinated or extremely comfortable, extremely happy with the kind of formidable election results that we've had, the strong government that we have. It would be a decisive government, and if they are able to implement some of these measures that the market is looking at, I think the quantum of money coming into India will only keep increasing over time.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I'm afraid we'll have to wind up this discussion. All of you, many thanks for taking time out for us this evening and really walking us through your viewpoint of Narendra Modi's cabinet and what you think really holds in store for them. Let's keep it though with a big event where Narendra Modi's diplomatic gamble for sure has paid off. You had heads of state of SAARC nations, including Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif as well as Sri Lankan President